So the Speedy Six, word 2. I'm going to give you the word. The word is anxious. I want you to use your duck hands, lines and numbers. Anxious. You don't be blinded by the word. You know how to spell the word. Let's just actually use our duck hands, lines and numbers. Anxious. 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 We wiggle our fingers there to reinforce. Have we got the right sounds? We're not bothering about the letters. So there are speech sound lines for segmenting, for isolating the speech sounds and ordering. Anxious. Yes, anxious. And although this might be tricky at first with very young children to form those numbers at the same time as saying the sounds, it's really important for you, especially adults, because we've got to kind of rewire your brain in a way. We've got to shift the way that your brain processes things if you haven't used SSP before. If you've used things like thras, you might be a lot more aware of segmenting phonemes and what have you. But if you've used synthetic phonics, you possibly haven't done this because you'll be used to a print to speech approach. This is speech to print. Okay, so we've got anxious. And if we were to think about the speech sound monsters, then we would go we would use oh, sorry. Mums, they've all got all the spelling choices on the back. Which is our schwa. Anxious. So they're the sounds, because we're not doing anything except for starting off with the sounds. So in the Speedy Six, the children do this first. Duck hands, lines, numbers, choose the monsters. And if you're in the conductors course, online training, conductors.com, then you've got these. So every child can have their own monster map with their own mini monsters. So they would put their mini monsters on their board. And the only place you can get this is in the online training, where you also get the student videos, snap and cracks, all sorts of resources. It's not just training. So we've come to here, and then we're going to, at this stage, we then show them the word, because this is important. We're going to then show them the word. So in their mind, they know that's what it is. So now we're going to say, okay, this is how the king, who created the code and put all the code in his code mapping book, the dictionary, this is what he chose on that particular day for anxious. And the children go, okay. And the children will have recognised, okay, well, I know that can be ksh. I know that. I've seen that before, ksh, like in luxury, and that's one of our soundpick cards, and that's from our code in a box. So this is our monster bank with our cards, and I put my code in the box cards in there, as well as my monster cards, because the monster bank, it's ideal if you can have 2 packs of monster cards, so you can do this. So we've got anxious. So then they're thinking, okay, so what's going to map? Well, the I think that let me think, ksh. Now, I think that ksh, that's going to be the schwa, and that's going to be the s. Ksh. Sorry. Ksh. Anxious, because remember, every single sound is used, it maps with the graphemes. But I know what will happen is, so the children go, I think it's this one. Now they can put, if you've got the monster cards on the board, it's nice because you can put the actual soundpick cards that have all the choices. So it's I put them on the front just to be quick, but obviously in all the pockets you've got all the choices, not just the ones that happen to be in this word. Which is what we looked at a second ago. So that one is going to go, isn't it? So we go ksh. Oh, okay. So what we've done is, oh, sorry. So what we've done is, it's actually changed it, hasn't it? So this schwa, which is going to be the number 4 sound, the phoneme for number 4, this schwa has those 3 letters, because we've changed it from listening for the sounds, and that's often what happens when you have the X. It's the same as box. Think about B-O-X, B-O-X. That box, it's instead of the ksh, it's going to be the, it's not going to be the gz, that's in another word. It's going to be, not that, ksha. It's going to be ks, isn't it? So it's the same. We've already seen this. We actually saw we did box in the yellow code level. So ksh, anxious. Okay, so we need to have our, and that's what's nice here, is that they build their schwa cloud. So throughout the year, they're working out what they used, what schwa pictures they found. And then, of course, we've got this, which is nice and simple. Anxious. Anxious. But what you will find is, if you do this with the children, and please do, and the children will look at they'll look at the X and they'll see that there. But what will happen is, and this happened in the closed group. So in the closed group, I've got some, the teachers in there are just brilliant. And somebody posted, right, how do we code map anxious? And then there's a whole discussion about it, which is exactly what the children do. And it's marvellous, because it went from this word that was, you know, perhaps not particularly exciting, whatever, to a word that we're exploring. How is it going to code map? What are the parts in that matters? What's the etymology? So where does this word come from? Why did the king choose this? But one of the discussions that will come out, which will come out with your children, is that, well, some children want to go and what they'll want is, they'll want here for that to be an XI and the schwa to be an OU, and they'll discuss that, because some of the children will say, well, I've seen a sh, I've seen a sh sound pick. Think about the think about the sh part. They'll think, well, I've seen the sh with an I, so why can't it be sh? Why can't it be ksh with an I? In which case, if they want to do that, that's absolutely fine. They would put it on the outside of their X cloud. This is a funny one, because this is the only one which is print to speech, because the X represents those sounds. Whereas in every other thing we're doing, it's the sound, how is it represented? So they might decide to put the XI on the outside of their cloud, because it's their keyring, it's their spelling discoveries and what have you. So they might decide to put that on the outside and look for other words where that XI represents, sorry, I should have put it next to there, where that XI represents the ksh sound. So this is what we're doing when we're code mapping and monster mapping. This is number 2 of the Speedy Six, and this is why teachers love the Speedy Six, because of these discussions that come out, not only amongst the children, but also themselves. Anxious.